The morning it happened, the world woke up confused. At first, people thought it was just fog, maybe pollution, or some strange weather pattern. But when the clouds refused to move, when the light didn't shift, and when the sky remained a pale, endless void, fear crept in. The color blue was gone, not faded, not dimmed, completely erased as if someone had scrubbed it out of existence. The news channels called it a solar glitch. Scientists blamed atmospheric interference, but deep down, everyone knew something fundamental had broken. Arya Vale sat on the porch of her small farmhouse, staring at the sky that no longer looked like home. It was a hollow ceiling above her, without warmth or depth. Her father, Dr. Jonas Vale, once a brilliant astronomer, hadn't left his observatory since that morning. The world outside was quiet, too quiet. Even the birds had stopped singing, as if nature itself was mourning. By the third day, crops began to wilt. The temperature fluctuated wildly, burning hot 1 hour, freezing cold the next. Without the natural spectrum of sunlight, photosynthesis faltered. The government issued emergency broadcasts, urging calm and promising that normal atmospheric color will return soon. But it never did. Arya noticed the small changes before anyone else. Static in the air at night, a faint hum that only she seemed to hear when she looked at the horizon too long. And then there was her father, whispering to the stars that no one could see anymore. She would find him late at night in the observatory, typing furiously into his old radio array, sending pulses of sound into the dead sky. Whenever she asked, he'd just shake his head and say, "Go to sleep, Arya. It's not time yet." She didn't understand what he meant until one night she caught a glimpse of his logbook. Scrawled across the top of the page were the words, "If the blue doesn't return, neither will they." That was the moment Arya stopped believing this was a natural event. Someone, or something, had taken the sky's color, and whatever her father was doing up there, he wasn't trying to fix the atmosphere, he was trying to reach whatever took it. Arya waited until her father fell asleep in his chair, surrounded by flickering monitors and half-empty coffee mugs. The observatory smelled of dust and ozone, a metallic tang that clung to the air. She moved carefully, her heart pounding as she unlocked the lower cabinet with a hairpin. Inside lay stacks of old tapes, reels, and data drives labeled with strange symbols and one word repeated again and again: Horizon. She had heard of Project Horizon before, whispered in school as a failed attempt to control weather, but no one ever mentioned that it had been her father's project. She found an ancient recorder connected to a cracked terminal and pressed play. The first sound was static. Then came voices, layered and distorted. They weren't human. They echoed like whispers carried through wind tunnels. "The resonance is unstable," one human voice said, her father's. Then another voice, soft and melodic, replied, "The color you lost was the price of your silence." The recording ended abruptly with a high-pitched tone that made her flinch. She replayed it, thinking she had misheard, but the words were the same. "The color you lost." What did that mean? The next file was labeled Test Sequence 47. As she activated it, the old radio transmitters in the room flickered alive on their own. The frequency dial spun rapidly before freezing on an unmarked channel. A low hum filled the observatory, followed by a single flash of blue light across the ceiling, the first blue she had seen in months. It vanished as quickly as it came. Her father woke up at the noise. His eyes widened in fear when he saw her standing by the terminal. "What did you do?" he demanded, rushing forward to shut everything down. But it was too late. The machines were already active, sending repeating pulses into the atmosphere. "I shouldn't have listened to them," he whispered, voice trembling. Arya stepped back, confused. "Who are they?" she asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the pale sky through the observatory window. For a fleeting moment, the horizon shimmered, a ghost of color fighting to return. Then it faded again, leaving only emptiness. Her father sank into his chair, defeated. "They were listening," he said quietly. "And now, they'll remember us." The coordinates from her father's data led Arya far beyond the borders of any safe zone, across deserts turned to glass and forests long turned gray. The sky above her was still blank, a hollow dome that neither brightened nor dimmed. She traveled for days with a small rover she'd repaired from scraps, following the old maps and her father's scribbled notes. "North Equatorial Dome," the papers read. "Access sealed. Horizon terminal still active." She didn't know what she'd find, but something deep inside her whispered that this place held the truth about why the world had lost its color. When she reached the dome, half buried under layers of sand and twisted metal, it looked less like a facility and more like a fossil, Rusted towers jutted from the ground, humming faintly with residual energy. The entrance was sealed shut, but the control pad beside it still blinked with a faint red light. Arya used one of her father's old access cards, and to her surprise, it worked. The massive door groaned open, releasing a rush of cold, dry air that smelled like lightning. Inside, the dome stretched wide and empty. Broken glass panels shimmered across the floor like fallen stars. In the center stood a colossal structure, a ring of machinery reaching up toward the ceiling, its surface alive with faint pulsing veins of light. It wasn't just a machine, it felt alive. When Arya approached, the lights responded to her presence, growing brighter, as though recognizing her. Then a voice echoed from behind her. "You shouldn't be here, Arya." She turned sharply. Her father stood at the doorway, his face pale, his eyes heavy with regret. "I knew you'd come," he said softly. "This is what's left of Horizon. We thought we could talk to the atmosphere, teach it stability, balance, empathy, but it was already alive. We didn't create control, we created pain." Arya looked up at the machine. "You mean the sky? It's conscious?" He nodded slowly. "It was once our guardian. Now it's wounded, and it remembers who hurt it." The machine pulsed brighter, its hum deepening. The ceiling panels flickered faint shades of blue before fading again. Her father's voice broke. "It doesn't trust us anymore." Arya stepped forward, her hand trembling as she touched the glowing metal. "Then maybe," she whispered, "it needs someone new to remind it how." The hum of the machine grew louder, vibrating through Arya's chest like a heartbeat. Sparks of pale light rippled through the cables above her, and the faint outlines of clouds began to stir beyond the glass ceiling. Her father worked frantically at a nearby terminal, his hands trembling as data streamed across the screen. "If you activate the full sequence," he warned, "it'll override every global network. Communication, satellites, power grids, all of it will burn out." Arya looked up at the empty sky. "Then maybe it's time the world learned silence," she said quietly. The machine responded to her voice, lights flickering in soft pulses, almost like it understood. Arya placed her hands on the central console. A wave of warmth spread through her palms, not mechanical warmth, but something deeper, almost emotional. Images filled her mind. The first sunrise over Earth, the laughter of ancient oceans, the sound of wind brushing through blue skies. Then came pain, a sharp memory of human greed, pollution, endless experiments that tore holes into the atmosphere's very essence. She saw Project Horizon's creation, how it screamed when humans tried to fix it, and how, in grief, it erased its own color to protect itself. Her father shouted, "It's rejecting the reboot. You'll destroy yourself." But Arya didn't move. The machine's light climbed higher, wrapping around her like a cocoon. Then the voice, that same melodic tone from the recordings, whispered through the air, soft as wind. "Do you remember when you looked up and smiled?" Arya's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered, "I remember." The dome shuddered. A blinding surge of blue erupted from the machine, racing upward through the clouds. Across the world, people gasped as the sky deepened, color flooding back into the heavens. Oceans shimmered again. Trees glowed green under real sunlight, and for the first time in years, warmth touched the Earth's surface. The machine went silent. When the light faded, Arya was gone. Dr. Vale fell to his knees, staring up at the reborn sky. The wind carried a faint whisper, her voice gentle and calm. "I taught it to remember." And as the clouds drifted, forming the faint outline of a young woman's face, the world finally understood. The sky hadn't just been repaired, it had forgiven.